The night was heavy with silence, only broken by the sound of fast footsteps. The alien girl ran through the dark forest, her breath sharp and quick, her heart beating like a drum in her chest. Behind her, the monsters followed. Their growls filled the air, their glowing eyes like fire in the shadows. They were tall, thin and hungry. Their long claws scratched against the rocks and trees as they moved. She did not look back. She knew what she would see. If she slowed down even for a moment, they would catch her. They would tear her apart. The forest was strange, filled with twisted trees and glowing plants. The light of 2 moons fell across the land, turning everything silver and cold. She stumbled over roots, but she pushed herself forward, her legs weak, her body shaking. Yet she did not stop. She had already lost her people, her home, her family. She could not lose herself, too. She whispered inside her mind, "Run. Keep running. Don't stop." The monsters were not just chasing her. They were playing with her. Their growls grew louder and then softer, as if they enjoyed the fear. She could feel their hunger pressing against her back, like fire on her skin. The girl's long silver hair stuck to her face, her skin glowing faintly under the moonlight. Her clothes were torn, her arms and legs marked with scratches. She looked weak, but her eyes were bright with survival. Every step she took was filled with pain, but also with hope. Because she believed that if she could reach the far side of the forest, maybe she could escape them. Suddenly, a howl broke through the night. It was closer than before. She gasped. Fear tightened around her chest. She tripped and fell. The earth was cold and hard. Her knees scraped. Blood touched the soil. She crawled to her feet, her body screaming for rest, but she had no choice. She had to move. Behind her, the shadows grew bigger. The monsters were closing in, their shapes now clear between the trees. The girl's mind screamed for an answer. She searched the dark for a path, and then she saw it. Faint lights glowing ahead. Soft, warm, strange lights she had never seen before. Her heart leapt. Was it another trap, or was it a way out? She didn't know, but she had no choice. Either the lights or the monsters, one of them would take her. She turned her body toward the lights and ran harder than before. Her lungs burned, her throat dry, but her feet did not stop. The monsters roared. Their voices shook the trees. Birds scattered into the night sky. The girl ran faster. Branches cut her arms. Roots grabbed her ankles, but she kept going. The lights grew brighter with every step. Her legs felt heavy. Her vision blurred. She could hear the monsters now, too close, their breath hot, their claws scratching the ground. They were almost upon her. Tears filled her eyes, not of weakness, but of fire. She refused to end here. She refused to let them win. She reached the edge of the forest. The trees opened, and she stumbled into an open field. She gasped at the sight before her. The lights were not the cold fire of the monsters, nor the glow of the forest. They were soft golden lights shining from strange shapes, small houses, quiet streets. She had no idea what this place was, but it was alive. It was different. Her legs gave way. She fell to her knees, her chest heaving. She looked back and her heart froze. The monsters had reached the edge of the trees, their eyes fixed on her, their jaws open wide. For a moment the world went still. The girl whispered to herself, "Not here. Not now." She pushed her body up again, forcing herself to move even as the monsters stepped into the open. But then something unexpected happened. A small sound rose from the quiet street ahead. Not a growl, not a howl, but a bark, short and sharp. A sound she had never heard before. She turned her head, and in the golden light of the houses a small creature stood, its eyes bright, its tail wagging. It looked nothing like a monster. It was tiny, almost fragile. Yet it faced her, and the shadows without fear. The alien girl's lips parted in shock. She had fled from nightmares. She had crossed darkness. She had lost everything. And now, in the strangest place, the first thing she found was a dog. Behind her, the monsters roared again, louder, angrier, but her eyes stayed fixed on the small creature ahead. Her body pulled toward it, as if her soul knew that in this strange world, this was the light she had been running toward all along. The night shook with the sound of two worlds meeting, the girl's fear, the monster's rage, and the dog's brave bark. And in that moment, the alien girl realized her escape was not the end. It was only the beginning. The alien girl stood frozen at the edge of the field, her chest rising and falling, her eyes wide. Behind her, the monsters waited in the dark trees, growling low, their shadows tall and sharp. In front of her stood the small creature, a pug, round and short, its nose wrinkled, its body shaking but not stepping back. Its bark filled the night like a brave drum. The girl tilted her head, her silver hair falling across her face. She had never seen such a creature before. It was not dangerous, not huge, not sharp. Yet something about it made her pause. The pug barked again, louder this time, as if warning the monsters to stay away. The girl's heart softened. The sound was strange but carried strength. Behind her, the monsters hissed, their claws scraping the ground. They hated the light of the houses, they hated the sound of this little animal. Yet their hunger burned. The girl felt torn between two worlds, the nightmare chasing her and the strange small hope standing before her. Her legs moved without thought. She stumbled forward, closer to the pug, her body weak but her spirit pushing her on. The pug sniffed the air, its tail wagging, its bark lowering into a steady growl. Then she saw something more behind the pug. A figure appeared, tall, human, carrying a lantern that glowed warm and gold. The human's eyes widened at the sight of the alien girl. The girl froze again. She did not know if this human was friend or enemy. She had fled from monsters, but what if this world held new dangers? The human stepped forward slowly. The pug ran in circles, barking between the alien girl and the trees, as if trying to protect both. The girl's hands trembled. She raised them slightly, showing no weapon, her body language saying, "I mean no harm," though her lips never moved. The human studied her carefully, his brows furrowed, his eyes shifting from her glowing skin to the monsters lurking at the edge of the forest. For a moment, the world stood still. Three forces locked in silence: the alien girl, the monsters, and the human with his pug. Then the monsters stepped forward, their hunger breaking the moment, their eyes flashing with fire, their growls shaking the night. The human gasped. He had never seen such horrors. His hand tightened around the lantern, his body shaking but not running away. The pug barked louder than ever before, running toward the monsters, its tiny body brave against shadows bigger than houses. The alien girl's eyes widened. She had never seen such loyalty in such a small being. She felt a rush of warmth in her chest, something she thought she had lost with her people. The human shouted, calling the pug back, his voice filled with fear, yet also courage. He reached out a hand toward the alien girl, his gesture clear. "Come with me." Her heart raced. She hesitated, but then the monsters roared again, closer, faster, their claws cutting the earth. She had no choice. She took the human's hand, his grip warm and strong, pulling her toward the golden lights of the small houses. The pug ran beside them, barking, guiding, guarding. The girl's legs stumbled, but the human kept her steady, his steps quick, his lantern swinging, the shadows behind them growing louder with every second. They reached a small wooden house at the edge of the town. The human pushed the door open, guiding her inside. The pug leapt in behind them, its short legs moving fast. The door slammed shut, the night outside filled with growls and scratches. The monsters circled but did not break the light barrier. The alien girl collapsed onto the wooden floor, her chest heaving, her body shaking. She looked up at the human, her glowing eyes wide with confusion and fear. The human knelt down, his face gentle, his voice soft. Though she did not understand the words, the tone was clear. It was kindness. The pug licked her hand, its small tongue warm, its eyes filled with simple trust. The girl blinked, stunned by the gesture. No one had touched her like this since her world fell. Her heart trembled. She whispered in her mind, "Why? Why do these strange beings not fear me?" Outside, the monsters roared, slamming against the walls, but the house held strong. The human lit more lamps, filling the space with golden warmth. The alien girl curled against the wall, her body exhausted, but her eyes followed the pug. The small creature curled beside her, its soft snore breaking the tension. She felt something strange, something she had not felt in a long time. She felt safe. The human sat across from her watching, his face curious but calm. He did not chain her. He did not shout. He only gave her space. The girl looked at him, then at the pug, her lips parted slightly. She could not speak his language, but her eyes whispered what her mouth could not. "Thank you." The human gave a small nod as if he understood. The monsters finally pulled back, fading into the night. But the alien girl knew they would return. Yet for now, inside this house, she was alive. She was not alone. The pug pressed closer to her, its small body warm. She closed her eyes, for the first time in forever. Sleep came without nightmares. The monsters might return. The danger was not gone. But tonight, she had found something rare. Comfort. Beside a human's loyal pet pug, and in that silence, she realized her escape was not the end of her story. It was the start of a new bond, one that would change everything. The night grew quiet inside the small wooden house. The monsters had left the edge of the town for now, their growls fading into the dark forest, but the alien girl knew they were not gone. They were waiting, hungry, patient. The human sat across the room, a lantern glowing softly beside him. His face calm, but his eyes filled with questions. He had never seen anyone like her. Her skin glowing faintly, her silver hair tangled and wild, her eyes shining with a light not from this world. The pug lay close to her side, its small body warm, its snore soft. The alien girl looked down at it with wonder. How could such a small creature make her feel safe? How could it stand against monsters without fear? The girl tried to speak, her lips moved, but her words were not the human's words. Strange sounds left her throat. The human tilted his head, trying to listen, but he shook his head gently. He did not understand. Frustration filled her eyes. She pressed her hand against her chest, then pointed at him, then at the pug, trying to say she was grateful, trying to show she meant no harm. The human watched, then gave a small smile. His hand rested on his chest too. He spoke slowly, softly, as if teaching her, his words simple but his meaning clear. The alien girl felt warmth rise inside her. It was strange, after so much fear and pain, to feel kindness, to see no hate in his eyes. She leaned back against the wooden wall, her body heavy with exhaustion, her mind spinning with memories. Her people were gone, her world destroyed. She had no one left, but in this strange house, she felt something she thought she would never feel again. She felt seen. The pug woke and stretched, patting across her lap, curling up again without hesitation. She blinked, her lips parting in surprise. The creature trusted her without fear, as if it had already accepted her as family. The human stood and moved toward the kitchen corner. He lit another small lamp and pulled out bread, fruit, and water. He placed them on a table, then gestured for her to come. The alien girl hesitated, her body weak but her hunger stronger. She crawled forward carefully, her glowing eyes watching his every move. He did not threaten her, he did not push her, he only offered. She picked up the fruit slowly, sniffing it, unsure if it was safe. But the pug barked once, wagging its tail, then grabbed a small piece of bread. Chewing happily, the girl let out a small laugh. Soft, broken, but real, she tasted the fruit, and for the first time in days, she felt life returning to her. The human watched closely, his eyes soft, his voice low. He spoke again, pointing at the fruit, saying its name, pointing at himself, saying his own. The girl listened. Her mind sharp, she tried to repeat. Her accent strange, her voice quiet, but the human smiled. Nodding in approval, the pug barked once as if joining the lesson. The girl touched its head carefully, her fingers gentle, her heart tightening at the simple joy of connection. Yet outside, the night was not silent for long. A faint sound echoed from the forest. The monsters had not given up. Their whispers carried on the wind. The girl stiffened, fear flashing in her eyes. The human noticed. He looked toward the window. His jaw tight, he knew danger was near. He walked to a shelf and pulled out an old metal tool, a weapon of his kind, not strong enough to face monsters, but enough to show he would not let harm touch his home. The alien girl's chest tightened. She felt guilt rise inside her. She had brought danger here. This human and his loyal pug had nothing to do with her world, yet now they were part of it. Her eyes watered. She pressed her hand against the pug's back, whispering in her own tongue, "I should not be here." But the pug only wagged its tail, pressing closer, as if saying she was exactly where she was meant to be. The human returned, sitting near her again, his eyes firm. He placed the weapon down but kept the lantern burning bright. He looked at her, his voice calm. She did not understand his words, but she understood his eyes. He was telling her, "You are safe here." The alien girl closed her eyes for a moment, breathing deeply, letting the warmth of the room, the light, and the loyalty of this small creature soothe her. Hours passed slowly, the monster's whispers fading again. The girl drifted into sleep, her dreams no longer filled with fire and screams, but with golden light and soft barks. The human watched her carefully, protecting her through the night. The pug stayed curled against her side, its small chest rising and falling in rhythm with hers. The night outside was dangerous, but inside the small wooden house, a fragile bond was forming. When the girl woke at dawn, sunlight spilling through the cracks, she found the pug still beside her, the human already awake, watching the forest, his face tired but determined. The girl sat up slowly, stretching. Her eyes meeting his, no words were spoken, but trust had begun to grow. She had fled from monsters. She had lost her people. But now, inside this home, she had found something she never expected, connection with a human and comfort beside his loyal pug. And though the forest was still filled with danger, she knew she was no longer running alone. The sun rose slowly over the small town. Light spilling across the quiet fields, the alien girl stood by the window, her glowing eyes watching the trees at the far edge, her chest tight with worry. For a moment, everything looked calm. The houses silent, the birds singing. But she knew it was a lie. The monsters never gave up. They hunted until their prey was gone. She pressed her hand against the glass, her breath fogging the surface. Memories of the night filled her mind. The roars, the glowing eyes, the endless chase. She shivered behind her. The pug stretched and yawned, its small paws scratching the wooden floor. It barked once, soft but alert, as if reminding her that she was not alone. The human entered the room with quiet steps. Carrying bread and water, he placed them on the table, then followed her gaze toward the forest, his face hard, his jaw tight. He did not need words, his eyes said it clearly. He felt the danger too. The alien girl turned, her hair falling across her shoulders, her lips parted as if to warn him, but the human raised a hand. Calm and steady, he nodded once, showing her he understood. The pug barked again, louder this time, its nose twitching, its ears sharp. The alien girl crouched down, placing her hand on the small creature's back, its warmth calming her heart. The bond between them was strange, fragile yet powerful. She had lost her people, but here was a loyal friend who asked for nothing but trust. Hours passed slowly. The human worked outside, gathering wood, repairing fences, keeping the house strong. The alien girl helped where she could, her strength returning little by little. She carried water, placed stones along the fence, her glowing skin catching the sunlight. The human watched her sometimes, curiosity in his eyes but no fear. The pug ran circles around them, barking at the air, chasing butterflies, its joy a strange light in the heavy shadow of danger. But as the sun dipped lower, the peace began to break. The air grew heavy. The forest grew quiet, too quiet. The birds stopped singing, the wind stopped moving. Even the pug froze, its ears rising, its eyes locked on the trees, a low growl rumbling in its throat. The alien girl felt it too, a vibration deep in the ground. The monsters were near, closer than before. She turned to the human quickly. Her eyes wide, she pointed toward the forest, shaking her head, her body tense with warning. The human grabbed his weapon, old but ready. He lit lanterns around the house, though it was not yet dark, golden light pushing back the shadows. The pug barked wildly now, racing to the door, scratching, growling, its tiny body ready to face giants. The first roar came from the tree line, deep and powerful, shaking the wooden walls. The alien girl gasped, her body trembling. The monsters had found her again. The human stood tall, his weapon gripped tight. He glanced at her, his eyes firm, telling her not to fear. Even as his hands shook slightly, the girl stepped closer. Her silver hair glowing faintly, her heart torn. She wanted to run, but she also wanted to stand beside him. Shadows moved between the trees. Glowing eyes appeared, one pair, then two, then many. The monsters were gathering, the pug snarled. Its bark sharp and fearless, the alien girl knelt beside it, her hand pressed to its back, whispering in her own tongue. Words of comfort, words of courage. Her mind raced. She had no weapon strong enough, her powers were weak. But she could not let them take this place. Not this human, not this dog. The human moved closer to her. Placing his lantern on the floor, its flame strong, he spoke softly, his tone steady. She did not know the words, but she understood. He was telling her they would fight together. The alien girl's eyes filled with tears, not of fear but of gratitude after losing everything. She had found someone willing to stand beside her. Even against nightmares, she nodded, her hands shaking, her lips pressing into a thin line of determination. The night fell quickly, darkness swallowing the fields. The monsters stepped out of the forest, tall and thin, their claws shining in the lantern light, their jaws open with hunger. The pug barked so loudly it seemed impossible for such a small body, its sound echoing across the night. The alien girl rose to her feet, her glowing skin brightening. Her heart beating like a drum. She would not run this time. The first monster lunged forward, its claws tearing the ground. The human raised his weapon, the alien girl raised her hands, weak light sparking at her fingertips. The clash had begun, the monsters had returned, and there was no place left to hide. But inside the wooden house, lit by golden light and guarded by a small brave pug, courage burned brighter than fear, the alien girl whispered to herself, her voice steady though her body trembled. This time, I will not escape alone. And as the monsters roared again, filling the night with terror, the girl, the human, and the pug stood together, ready for the storm that had come. The night shook with the roar of the monsters, their voices rolling across the fields like thunder. The wooden house trembled under the sound, but inside, 3 hearts stood firm. The alien girl, the human, and the pug. The girl's glowing skin flickered with fear and determination, her fingers sparking faint light. Her breath sharp, she was weak but not broken. The human held his old weapon tight, his hand steady though sweat ran down his brow. His lantern burned bright beside him, pushing shadows back for a moment. The pug barked furiously, its body small but its voice filled with courage. It paced at the door, growling, daring the monsters to come closer. The first monster stepped into the open, its body tall and twisted, its eyes like fire, its claws dripping with dark slime. It snarled, shaking the ground with every step. The alien girl shivered, memories of her people's last stand burning in her mind. She had seen these creatures tear everything apart, but now she was not running, not tonight. The human looked at her, his eyes steady. He lifted his free hand toward her, the gesture simple but powerful. He was saying, "Trust me." The girl's chest tightened. Trust was something she had lost long ago, but in his eyes, in the loyalty of the pug at her feet, she found the strength to nod. The monster lunged forward, its claws striking the fence outside. Wood splintered, the sound loud in the night. The human raised his weapon and fired. The shot cracked, echoing through the darkness. The bullet struck the monster's shoulder, making it roar with pain, but it did not fall. It grew angrier, its steps faster. The pug ran into the yard barking, snapping at the monster's heels, the tiny creature fearless against the giant shadow. The alien girl gasped, fear for the pug filling her heart, but the dog dodged quick, running circles. Distracting the monster's steps, the human shouted, his voice firm, calling the pug back, but the pug refused, its courage stronger than fear. The alien girl stepped forward, her hands glowing brighter. She focused her mind, her voice trembling with old power. Light burst from her palms, weak but sharp. The beam struck the monster's chest, burning its skin. The smell of ash filled the air. The monster screamed, stumbling back. The girl fell to her knees, her body shaking. The power had drained her. Her vision blurred, but she had made her mark. The human rushed forward, pulling her up. His voice soft but urgent, he placed her behind him. Standing tall, protecting her, the pug returned, panting. Its small chest rising and falling fast, it pressed close to her legs as if to say, "You are not alone." The girl's eyes filled with tears, not of weakness but of fire. Together they had hurt the monster. Together they had a chance. But more shadows moved from the forest. Glowing eyes, one after another. The monsters were not alone. They had come as a pack. The human cursed under his breath, his weapon shaking in his grip. There were too many, but he did not step back. The girl placed her glowing hand on his arm, her eyes steady though her voice was silent. Her message was clear. "We fight together." The pug barked again, loud, fearless, running toward the door as the second monster approached. Its growl shaking the air, the human fired again. The shot tearing through the night, another roar followed. But still the monsters pressed closer. The girl tried to summon more light. Sparks flying weakly, her body trembling, her power not yet strong, but her will unbroken. The monsters circled the house, their claws scratching wood, their eyes glowing through the windows, the night filled with the sound of hunger. The human moved quickly, lighting more lanterns, placing them at the windows, golden flames fighting against the dark. The girl helped, carrying one with shaking hands, her silver glow mixing with the firelight. Together they made the house shine like a small beacon in the storm. The pug ran from one window to the other, barking at every shadow, its tiny voice sharp, its courage endless. The girl watched it with awe, her lips trembling with a small smile. This creature, so small, so fragile, was braver than most she had ever known. The human looked at her too, their eyes meeting for a brief moment, trust flowing between them without words. The monsters growled louder, but they hesitated. The light burned against them. The shots had hurt them. The small family inside the house stood united. The alien girl's body shook with weakness, but her spirit burned stronger. She whispered in her mind, "I will not run again." The human lowered his weapon for a moment, placing a steady hand on her shoulder, his touch calm, his eyes saying, "We will survive this night." The pug barked once more, sharp and strong as if sealing the promise. And though the monsters still circled, though danger still filled the air, something had changed. They were no longer strangers hiding in fear. They were a team, bound by trust, ready to fight side by side. The night was far from over. The monsters would not give up easily, but neither would they. And in the glow of fire and silver light, the alien girl, the human, and the pug prepared for the battle of their lives. The night shook with chaos. Claws scraped the wooden walls, growls rattled the air, glowing eyes peered through the windows. The monsters had surrounded the house. The alien girl stood trembling, her hands glowing faintly, her body weak but her spirit refusing to break. She could feel their hunger pressing, choking, a storm of shadows waiting to swallow her whole. The human loaded his weapon again, sweat dripping down his face, his breath sharp, his lantern flickering. He knew he did not have enough bullets to face them all, but he did not step back. The pug barked wildly, running from door to window, its voice loud and sharp, the tiny creature standing against giants without fear. The first monster struck hard, smashing the fence to pieces, splinters flying into the night. The human fired, the shot echoed, the beast staggered, but another took its place, larger, fiercer. The alien girl gasped, her knees weak. She tried to summon light, sparks flickering at her fingertips, but her strength failed, her power fading like a dying star. Her heart ached with guilt. This human, this dog, they were in danger because of her, yet they stood beside her, protecting her. Tears burned in her eyes. She whispered in her own tongue, "I cannot lose them too." The monster struck again. The roof groaned under the weight of claws. Shadows slid across the windows, their eyes glowing brighter. The human shouted, his voice raw, firing again, hitting one in the chest. Dark smoke spilling from the wound, the monster roared, but more followed. The pug leapt forward, snapping its teeth, barking at the shadows, running into the yard before the human could stop it. The alien girl screamed without words, her chest tight, fear exploding in her heart as the pug faced a monster head-on. The monster lunged at the small dog, claws raised, jaws wide, but the pug dodged quick, biting its leg, barking with rage, its small body blazing with loyalty. The human ran forward, his weapon raised. Firing to protect his dog, the shot struck. The monster howled, staggering back. The pug scrambled away, panting, but its eyes still fierce, refusing to surrender. The alien girl fell to her knees, her heart pounding, her hands shaking. She had never seen such courage in something so small. But the battle was not over. More monsters pressed closer, their shadows covering the field, their growls shaking the earth. The human reloaded, his hands trembling, his lantern shaking, his eyes sharp with determination. He knew he might not survive, but he would not let the girl or his dog fall. The alien girl looked at him, her eyes wide, her voice trembling. She did not know his words, but she knew his meaning. He was ready to sacrifice himself. Her heart screamed. She could not let that happen. The roof cracked, claws tore through, a monster dropped inside the house, tall, twisted, its breath like smoke, its claws sharp as blades. The human raised his weapon, but the monster was too close, too fast. The pug leapt, its small body striking the monster's leg, biting, barking, refusing to let go. The alien girl's hands flared with sudden light, brighter than before, her fear transforming into fire. She screamed, her voice shaking the walls, her palms bursting with energy. Beams of silver light shot from her hands, striking the monster full in the chest. The beast roared, staggering back, smoke pouring from its body, its claws slashing wildly. The girl's light burned brighter, stronger, filling the house. The human shielded his eyes, his lantern dim against her glow. The pug growled fiercely, still clinging to the monster's leg. The girl poured everything she had into the light, her body trembling, her chest burning. But she refused to stop. The monster shrieked, its body twisting, its eyes dimming. It stumbled back through the broken roof, crashing into the yard, smoke rising from its wounds. The other monsters howled in anger, their roars shaking the ground, but they stepped back, their glowing eyes flickering with fear. The alien girl collapsed, her body weak, her glow fading. Her breath shallow, but she was alive. The human rushed to her side, pulling her up, his voice urgent, his eyes wide with awe and worry. The pug limped back to them, its fur dirty, its body scratched, but its tail wagged weakly. It pressed close to her, licking her hand. The girl's tears fell. She wrapped her arms around the small creature, holding it close, whispering words of gratitude in her language, words the dog did not need to understand. The human touched her shoulder gently. His eyes soft, he looked at her not as a stranger, not as a threat, but as someone worth protecting, someone who had just shown her true strength. The girl met his gaze, her lips trembling, her eyes shining. She whispered, "Together." Though he did not understand the word, he understood the meaning. The monsters circled the forest edge, growling, their hunger burning. But they did not step closer. The light had hurt them. The courage of 3 hearts had stopped them. For now the night grew quiet. The danger not gone, but pushed back. The alien girl leaned against the human. The pug curled in her lap, her chest rising and falling with exhaustion, her spirit heavy but alive. She had fled from monsters. She had thought herself broken. But tonight, in the fire of danger, she had found her courage again. And though the monsters would return, she knew she was no longer the weak girl who only ran. She was stronger now because she was not alone. The night slowly faded, the sky turning gray as the first light of dawn touched the horizon. The monsters had pulled back into the dark forest, their growls fading like distant thunder. The wooden house stood broken but alive, its roof cracked, its fence shattered, but inside, 3 hearts had survived. The alien girl, the human, and the small pug. The girl sat against the wall, her silver hair messy, her glowing skin dim from exhaustion, yet her eyes were alive, filled with something new, something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. The human placed his weapon aside, his shoulders heavy with fatigue. He looked at her with tired eyes, but they were kind, steady. No longer filled with doubt, he had seen her light, her power, her courage, and he no longer questioned what she was. He only saw who she was, a survivor who had chosen to stand and fight. The pug curled in her lap, its small body scratched but unbroken. Its tail wagged weakly, its eyes warm. It had been fearless through the storm, and now it pressed against her chest as if it had always belonged there. The girl stroked the pug gently, tears slipping down her cheeks. She whispered words in her language, soft, broken, but full of meaning. She thanked it, she thanked the human. She thanked the night for not taking everything away. The human crouched down, placing a hand on her shoulder, his eyes searching hers, though they did not share words. Their silence was enough. It carried trust, it carried respect, it carried the promise of a bond. The girl smiled faintly, weak but real. She pressed her glowing hand against his chest, over his heart, whispering in her tongue, "Family." Though he did not understand, the sound was gentle and he nodded slowly as if he did. The sun rose higher, filling the fields with gold. The forest still loomed dark, shadows shifting between the trees. But for now the monsters did not return. The human stepped outside, surveying the damage, his eyes narrowed. He knew they would come back. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday. The alien girl followed him slowly, the pug bounding ahead despite its injuries, barking at the wind, proud and protective. They stood together at the edge of the field, the girl staring at the forest, the human at her side, the pug at her feet. She felt the fear still inside her, but it no longer ruled her. The fear had become fire, and the fire had become strength. She whispered softly to herself, to the world, "I will not run again." The human turned, his voice calm, speaking words she did not know, but his tone was firm, steady. He was telling her they would stand together. The pug barked once, sharp, as if agreeing, as if sealing the promise. The girl smiled wider, her heart trembling. She had fled across galaxies. She had lost her people, Her home, her world, but here in the smallest of places, she had found something far greater. Belonging. Days passed. The house repaired little by little. The human worked with his hands, the girl helped carrying wood. Lifting stones, her strength returning. The pug never left her side, running beside her, barking at shadows, sleeping against her legs. It became her guardian, her comfort, her light in the dark. The human taught her words, slow and patient. Pointing at things, repeating sounds. She learned, her voice soft, her accent strange. But each word a bridge between their worlds. At night, the lanterns glowed warmly. They ate together. They sat together. They listened to the silence outside, broken only by the pug's snores. The girl laughed sometimes, a sound she thought she had lost forever. The human smiled, his face softer than she had ever seen. And for the first time since the monsters destroyed everything she knew, the alien girl felt alive, not as a fugitive, not as prey, but as someone who belonged. But the forest was never truly quiet. Sometimes at night the monsters' growls echoed faintly, reminding them that danger was never gone. The girl would tighten her arms around the pug. The human would check his weapon, but neither of them felt alone anymore. Together they had survived, together. They would face whatever came next. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, the girl stood outside, the pug at her feet, the human repairing the fence nearby. She gazed at the sky, her glowing eyes catching something strange, a flicker of light high above, far beyond the clouds. Her chest tightened, she knew that light. It was no star, it was a signal, a beacon, someone, or something was searching. The pug barked at the sky, sensing her fear. Pressing close to her legs, the human looked up, his eyes narrowing. He saw the light too, faint but steady. The girl's heart pounded. Her escape had not gone unnoticed. The monsters were not the only ones who could follow her. She looked at the human, then at the pug, her hands trembling, her voice soft. "It is not over." The human stepped closer, his eyes steady, his voice calm, his meaning clear. "Then we face it together," the pug barked once, sharp and brave, standing like a soldier, its small body glowing in the sunset. The alien girl smiled through her fear, tears shining in her eyes. She had fled monsters, she had lost her people, she had run across stars, but in the end, she had found a new home, not of walls or planets, but of hearts, the heart of a human, the loyalty of a pug. And though the sky whispered of new dangers, she no longer feared because she knew whatever came next, she would never face it alone.